The wind clawed at the black cliffs of St. Elwick's Point as dusk bled across the horizon. Fishermen in the tiny Cornish village below liked to tell newcomers the same warning. If you ever see the old lighthouse flare run, that light ain't for ships. It's for the living. Ellie Morgan laughed when she first heard it. Superstition was common in coastal towns. She'd grown up on the Gold Coast of Australia, where stories of phantom surf breakers were just as wild. But Ellie wasn't here for legends. She was a 28-year-old marine biologist on secondment from Sydney University, sent to map an unusual bloom of bioluminescent plankton. For 2 weeks, she logged tides and water temperature, staying in a rented cottage with a view of the decommissioned lighthouse. Its stone tower, blackened by a century of storms, loomed over the sea like a petrified sentinel. A flicker at dusk. On the 14th night, Ellie was kneeling by the tide pools when the world around her dimmed. The moon disappeared behind a bank of clouds, and there, at the edge of the cliff, a sudden pulse of blue light. She looked up sharply. The lighthouse lantern flared once, then again. Her chest tightened. The tower had been dark for more than 50 years. The local fishermen's warnings crept back unbidden. She shook her head. Probably teenagers with a torch. But the light wasn't white or yellow. It was a deep electric blue, like the glow of her own plankton samples magnified 1,000 times. The climb. Ellie packed her notebook and headed for the cliff path. Wind screamed through the gorse. The narrow trail climbed in tight switchbacks. Loose stones skittered beneath her boots and tumbled into the darkness below. By the time she reached the iron door at the base of the lighthouse, the light had stopped. Yet a faint vibration thrummed through the stone, so subtle she felt it more in her teeth than her ears. The door, rusted but unlocked, groaned as she pushed. Inside, a spiral staircase coiled upward, slick with salt and time. Halfway up, the vibration resolved into something almost musical. Low, drawn-out notes like a foghorn played underwater. The lantern room. At the top she found no bulb, no wiring, just a circular room smelling of iron and brine. In the center stood a single object, a brass telescope, old-fashioned and impossibly polished. As Ellie stepped closer, the floor quivered beneath her, and a whisper curled through the air like mist. "Look." Her heart hammered. She turned, expecting someone behind her, but the room was empty. The voice came again, a breath of wind across her ear. "Look." Against every sensible instinct, Ellie bent to the telescope. Lights on the water. The ocean stretched black and endless. Then, like ink igniting, hundreds of blue sparks bloomed across the surface. They weren't random. Each light flared in perfect unison, creating a living constellation. The pattern shifted, a circle, a pair of dashes, a single dot. Morse code. Her mind raced back to the lessons her father had taught her during camping trips in Queensland. The sequence spelled a single word: help. The whisper sharpened. Answer them. Ellie snatched her phone. No signal. She turned to leave. The trapdoor clanged shut. Marked. Panic surged. She grabbed the telescope to steady herself. The brass burned hot, branding a spiral pattern into her palm. She cried out and jerked back. Below, the blue lights pulsed faster, forming long spirals that mirrored the burn on her skin. Answer them. Her breath quickened. "Who are you?" she whispered. The room shuddered once, like a giant heartbeat. The keeper's cottage. The telescope pivoted of its own accord, away from the sea, toward the village. Through the eyepiece, she saw the keeper's cottage, a weathered stone house she'd passed every morning. It had been empty for decades, its windows boarded. Now one lamp flickered inside like a heartbeat. Driven by a force she couldn't name, Ellie raced down the staircase and across the cliff path. The wind tore at her hair. Waves smashed against the rocks below. The cottage door stood ajar. A journal from 1892. Inside, the air smelled not of dust but of fresh sea brine. Furniture draped in white sheets looked recently disturbed. On the wooden table lay a journal bound in cracked leather. She opened it. The date, 1892. The ink, faded yet legible, spelled a warning. The lights are not stars. They are the voices of the deep. When they call for help, the tide of silence follows. If we do not keep watch, the ocean will claim the land. The final line was underlined twice. The keeper must never leave the tower. Behind her, the floorboards creaked. The figure in the doorway. Ellie turned. A tall figure in a faded oilskin coat filled the doorway. Its face was hidden by shadow, but its eyes glowed faintly blue. A voice rolled through the room like waves striking rock. "Will you keep the watch?" Ellie's throat tightened. Who are you?" "I kept the light," the figure said, "until the deep called me back. The sea is waking. We need a keeper." The lamp flickered. For an instant she saw through the figure, bones like bleached driftwood beneath translucent skin. "Why me? You already bear the mark." The figure gestured to her palm. The burn glowed with the same blue light as the eyes. "The bargain." Ellie backed away. "I'm not." The figure raised a hand. The whisper she'd heard in the lighthouse now filled the cottage, 1,000 voices layered together. If no one listens, the silence will drown the world. Images crashed into her mind. Cities swallowed by dark waves, the ocean rising higher than mountains, the world reduced to endless black water. The voices softened. "Keep the watch, Ellie. Hold the light. Answer them." Her heart pounded. She thought of the fishermen, of the children who played on the beach, of her own parents thousands of miles away. I'll keep the watch," she said. The figure bowed once. "Then the light is yours." The lamp guttered out. Darkness swallowed the room. The final night. When Ellie stepped outside, the storm had cleared. Stars glimmered cold and sharp. The lighthouse lantern blazed blue for the first time in a century, a single unbroken beam sweeping the sea. She felt the brand on her palm pulse in rhythm with the distant lights. Her phone buzzed. A single message appeared, though she had no signal. "Welcome, keeper." Epilogue. At dawn the villagers found the lighthouse alive, its beam cutting through morning fog. Ellie's cottage door stood open. Her belongings lay neatly packed. She was nowhere to be found. Only her field notebook remained on the table. On the final page, in hurried script, "I will listen. I will keep the watch. If the lights call again, answer them." And on the page below, a single blue spiral glowed faintly, like the ocean itself breathing.